Over 33,000 American lives lost, 8,000 Americans missing in action, and over 100,000 Americans injured. These are devastating numbers. However, for many, including myself, the Korean War is just a brief, forgotten history lesson that we learned in high school. But the Korean War is anything but forgotten for my grandpa, Gene, whose brother, Cicero, went to war in Korea. But before I tell you about Cicero's story, let me share with you a little bit about Korea. Korea was divided after World War II into two halves, with the 38th parallel. North Korea, which was a communist nation, had been occupied by the Soviet Union, which left them well equipped and well prepared for war. South Korea was occupied by the United States, and they left them well trained but not well equipped because they feared a rebellion and they did not want South Korea to become a communist nation. Once the Soviet Union and the United States left, North Korea felt that they could advance by going to war with South Korea. By September 15, 1950, North Korea had already pushed all the way to the very tip of South Korea, only leaving a little bit for South Korea to have left. When the United States and the United Nations heard about this, they entered the war in September, pushing North Korea all the way back up here. It was Truman's hope that he could take over all of Korea and turn it into a democracy. But because nothing goes as he planned, China decided that they wanted to have a little bit of the fight. So they had 300,000 men enter the war, pushing the United States all the way back down to here. For the next couple of months, the United States and China just battled in between here. And eventually, by July 27, 1953, there was a ceasefire created at the 38th parallel. But before I end about talking about Korea, let me tell you a little bit about my Uncle Cicero's story. My Uncle Cicero joined the Army in 1951. He went to Korea late 1952 and fought for 6 months between this area. Here are a few of his pictures of him in Korea fighting. But the true story is about Uncle Cicero's family and how it affected them while he went to war. My great-grandma, or my grandpa's mother, had lost her husband when my grandpa was only 6 years old. A few years after that, my grandma lost her oldest son, Ray, in a horrible car accident when he was 18 years old. That left Uncle Cicero to be the oldest son. He became the breadwinner for the family. When Uncle Cicero enlisted, the money was pretty much gone with him. My grandpa's older sister, Ruth, had to become the breadwinner. There was a financial burden put on the family when Uncle Cicero went to war in Korea. Not only was there a financial burden, but there was great anxiety and great fear for Cicero. Because Cicero was the oldest now, and because my grandfather's mother had not gotten over the death of Ray and her husband, it took a lot of stress and anxiety for her when Uncle Cicero went to Korea. Because it took weeks and even months for letters to get to North Carolina from Uncle Cicero, Great-Grandma was in constant fear for Cicero's life. Korea was also the first televised war. So she heard stuff about the Korean War, and that caused great fear. But because my grandpa did not have a television set until 1960, there really was no way to really know what was going on over there. So between the financial burden and the stress emotionally, my grandpa remembers all the trauma. But he does recall the day that Cicero came back, and that his mother almost fainted when he saw him. So not only did the Korean War affect my Uncle Cicero, it affected his family. And the Korean War will never be forgotten for this family. It will always be a war that had a great effect on my family. Thank you for listening to my Uncle Cicero's story.